Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining another episode of the Educational Leadership Podcast. We have another very special guest. Before we introduce our guest, we do want to give a shout out to our sponsor, Ideal Impact. Ideal Impact's giving away hundreds of millions of dollars to public education. So if your district needs unrestricted funds, reach out to Ideal Impact. Okay, today we have Superintendent Smith from Benjamin ISD. Superintendent Smith, thank you for joining today.
Ah, you're very welcome. Glad to be here.
Absolutely. And just before we jump in, could you share a little bit about your background and a little bit about your district?
Um, yeah, I grew up in Coleman, Texas. It's pretty fairly small town, right in, if you place your finger in the center where you think the geographical center of Texas is, Coleman's real close to there. We were a 3A school at the time. It's a 2A school now. We're the smallest 3A in the state when I was in school. Um, so, started my educational career off at Dublin, by Stephenville. I went to Tarleton, liked that area, was trying to stay in that area. And of course, teaching and coaching, coaching especially, you tend to move around a little bit. But eventually made my way back to Coleman, was teaching and coaching there. And then I met my wife at the time, and, she had 3 kids and I had a very small house. So I thought I would put that administrative degree to use and, at least keep my eyes open for some administrative positions. There was a principal job that came open at Brooksmith that was about 35 miles away from Coleman. And so I started my career there, spent 3 years there. It was a great experience. Love the kids, love the community. We were pretty remote, just like, we are here at Benjamin. But enjoyed the small town, enjoyed the people there. So, um, and eventually ended up in Bayard, which is about 40 miles from where I grew up. And I was a secondary principal there for 3 years. Uh, Benjamin was open. I was contacted from the folks at Region 9 about applying for it. And so I applied, and it was a good fit. And so here I am. As far as the district goes, you can probably tell in the office behind me, it doesn't look like your traditional superintendent's office. You may be able to hear the humming from the server that's back behind me right now, but we're pretty crammed for space. We're going through a remodel of roughly half of our building at the current time. Before I got here in 2019, they passed a $21 million bond, largely due
Wow.
to increased revenues in the district that came from 3 different wind farms that came in. And so you went from becoming a very poor school district to all of a sudden having some funds to be able to improve your facilities. So when I first got here, the football field was about complete. We still had to get, some bathrooms built. We got those built. We built a rather large bus barn, added an ag program, and decided to use the final 2 bays of the bus barn as our ag shop. And so we're continuing to work on that. But, we've made a tremendous amount of progress over the last 2+ years that I've been here. We have a $11 million gym that we're building over here that's should be completed by May or June of next year. And so that's really exciting. And then we've got a lot of safety and security money from the state. So we're working on upgrading our safety and security. We've about got all our fencing project done, the doors, everything done that we need to do to meet the minimum standards and make sure that we can keep our kids safe. So it's been a unique experience, because I know a lot of people that, you come into a first superintendent job, maybe, you don't have the bond and the construction projects and things like that. But I really enjoy that part of it. That's one of the parts that I really enjoy. The first year I was superintendent and principal, and that was a lot. There's a lot of requirements from the state that we had to fulfill, and doing it with one person was extremely hard. So the board agreed to let me hire a principal, and she's taken over that instructional leadership role. She does a great job. Her name's Rhonda Moffitt. Um, she should be a superintendent one of these days as well. But just excited about the progress we've made, and I tell you what, we're out here in ranch country. I mean, we got the 4 6s about 30 miles to the west of us, a number of different ranches that are all through this area. And most of the people that live here are ranchers. There's some farming, more farming to the south, but around us is primarily ranching. And whatever it is about that, that produces some great kids. We got very little discipline. We've had a lot of success in a bunch of different areas. We won state the last 2 years in football. We went
Wow,
we
that's
went
awesome.
state in volleyball. The first year, last year we lost in the regional finals. They're district champs again this year, both football and volleyball. Our one act play was second in state last year. Our UIL Spirit, which is your cheerleading, they were second in state last year. So I think it speaks volumes to the kids that we have here and the type of employees that we have here that are all in for our kids. So it's really got to be a great environment, and it's really nice to be able to work with these people and try to keep moving Benjamin forward.
Yeah, that's really impressive. So the all of the success that you've had, your district has had with going to state, did that do you think that has it always been like that, or did that happen maybe after the improvements to the building, or is it because, the work ethic that they have coming from, maybe the more ranch rural area? I mean, what do you attribute to the success?
They have had some
Not,
success
yeah.
in the past, um,
Yeah.
not really to that extent. I know in football it was there was a long drought, barely fielding teams for a long time. We did bring in a couple new coaches. They had some really good kids, and of course that made a big impact. Um, but also, Coach Hayes is our athletic director and head football coach. Uh, he's won 2 state championships here. He won 2 state championships up the road at Kroll. And, I think when you have, quality people like that, it makes a big difference. Cody Props he's our volleyball coach, best volleyball coach that I've been around. He really brings the girls together. And I used to coach girls. But I didn't have that same kind of ability to bring them together and that build that kind of culture. Um, so he does a fantastic job with that, and he's our one act play coordinator too, which is kind of a unique combination. So he gets the volleyball to state, and then he gets one act to state. So you know it's really the people you have, and we had a unique group of kids. We had some really good kids in high school that were here at the time, and of course that makes a big difference. So when you got that combination of good, talented kids, and then good coaches, good sponsors, and of course you have to have some things go right. Um, you gotta stay fairly injury free. You got to have some of those things go right for you. As far as one act play, some of those things, it's subjective. So you got to know what the judges are looking for, and that's always kind of hit or miss. Um, so but we've done great in those areas, and I think it's largely because of the kids we have and the personnel, and our parental support is really good, and that goes a long ways too in education.
Yeah, yeah. Well, that's cool. And real quick, this might be a dumb question. You mentioned the 4 6s. Wasn't that the group that was on Yellowstone, the TV show?
Yes.
Oh, was it? Okay.
Yeah, so we have people in town here that work there. It's actually the headquarters are in Guthrie, Texas, and they're 30 miles west of here. But to my knowledge, the 4 6s does stretch back towards Benjamin. Of course, it's a huge ranch, and but that's where the main headquarters are at. There's other 4 6 ranches. A lot of these ranches will have a ranch here that's headquartered, and then they have other plots that they've also bought in different areas of Texas, um, to kind of extend their brand. But that's kind of what made the area a little bit more famous. So inevitably, when people ask me, where we're from, we say Benjamin. I've never heard of it. Um, we can kind of point them to that if they're Yellowstone fans. If they're not, we try to, well, we're 80 miles north of Abilene, 80 miles west of Wichita Falls, 120 miles east of Lubbock. So we're really not around a big area at all. We're 50 miles from a Walmart. So we are really remote. But it has its drawbacks, but it has its pluses. I think, as far as the schools that I've worked in with the clientele, with the parents, with the kids, with the staff, it's the best place I've ever been.
Awesome. Awesome. So I know we're running short on time here. I'd love to hear kind of what the future looks like. So you're doing some great things, going to state. You got a bond where you're implementing a lot of really great things in the district. What's the next 6 months, year? I mean, what's the future look like?
Well, we do have, obviously we want to finish up the gym. We have we started the ag program. We brought in an ag teacher this year. He's doing a fantastic job. He's a big pig animal show guy, which is what we wanted. It made perfect sense for this area with the type of kids that we have. So we are about to start um, a barn out there to be able to house some animals and things like that. So we're looking forward to completing that and just wrapping up all these construction projects, completely redoing the front of the building. This original building was finished in 1934. And so, we're renovating the entire inside of the building. So over the next year and a half, it's going to look completely different. And hopefully, that helps appeal to some of the communities around us that they would want to send their kids here because of the success we have, because of the facilities. Academically, we're traditionally very high B, A-rated campus. And a lot of that, you give credit to your teachers. We got some fantastic teachers who've been here a really long time. And so I just see us trying to finish those things up, build on the successes we have. We really try to promote a culture here that, we don't treat the kids like they're lesser individuals, and we don't have to because we don't have those discipline problems. So we can build those relationships with them, and I think you can get more out of your kids that way. And so hopefully we keep building our student enrollment because, if you're below 90 ADA in the state, um, it it severely decreases the amount of money that you get from the state. And so Benjamin at one time was down to 63 kids, K through 12. We've been over 100 most of the time that I've been here. Right now, like I said, we were at 94. We hope to keep gaining on that. We hope the facilities, the programs that we got will attract more kids and keep this district viable for the future. I know a lot of small towns in Texas are dying away. Hopefully the legislature takes care of that, but right now it doesn't seem like public education is really a priority. That's a shame. That's a whole nother argument. I mean, I did pay attention to the election and everything last night, but I'm not a political person and I don't like to play the political games. So, I don't think that public education should be held hostage over vouchers. I mean, you're talking about the future of your society in Texas, your future economic society is all going to be based on kids. Um, and we need to do what's best for them. And not to get way out of the realm here, but
Yeah.
I don't believe vouchers are going to be anything close to the answers. And talking with representatives, it seems like there's a certain amount of money that'll go out there, and the low socioeconomic kids will get the first choice. But if that private school hikes up the tuition or wants them to pay for things that puts them over that line. And I believe I told our representative, James Frank, this, that, you know, the way I grew up in Coleman, Texas, single dad, we were poor. Luckily, we had our grandparents in the same community that was able to help us out with, a little bit of school clothes and shoes and things like that. I say, if that was in place when I was in school, if it was $1 over, the Smith kids weren't going there.
Hmm.
So really, you're not affording every kid that opportunity. To me, you're still leaving out those low socioeconomic kids, and that's always been where my heart's been at, because that's how I was raised. The other kids that I grew up with, we were all in the same boat. And if it wasn't for Coleman being a really good school district and having some of the good teachers and everything that we had, um, we wouldn't have the opportunities that we do now. And I
Yep.
think every kid deserves that opportunity, and I don't think that should be held hostage over anything. So right now they're making it extremely hard on schools because they don't want to fund us. They don't want to give teachers raises, which you know they had to put together a task force to try to figure out why the teacher shortage is, which is ridiculous. I
Mm.
mean, you get out of college and you're making 30 something thousand a year, and trying to pay for a 4-year degree and a house and a car. Um, I mean, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure out that, you know, that's the main issue. It always comes down to money. So, um, I think we need to put more into our kids and their future and our future economy, and I think it'll pay off in the end. And I hope that happens in this next session.
Yep. Yeah, it makes sense. It's a hot topic, funding for sure. Yeah, it seems to come up on every podcast. So,
Yeah, I
well,
bet.
well, awesome. So I know we're out of time here. Before we close out, is there anybody in public ed that's been an inspiration to you that you think would be worthy of coming on the podcast? Maybe another superintendent?
Well, there's been several that I've worked for that have made an impact on me, um, one way or another. And um, I think you can learn from every experience, whether it's good or bad or indifferent. I think most superintendents have a good heart for education, and they want to do right by the kids. And so, Jared Beller, he's a superintendent at Clarendon. So he gave me the opportunity to be his high school principal. Eventually it worked into a secondary principal. They kept giving me more grade levels,
Hmm.
which is a blessing and a curse, I guess. But I think he's a great guy. Dr. Tim Little, that's at Baird now. He was really good to me when I was there. They've done some great things at Baird with the facilities, with the programs. So, I love to see the progress that they've made. Dr. Jay Smith, no relation, but he gave me my first administrative job at Brook Smith, and taught me a whole lot, brought me under his wing. He's retired now. Um, but having him give me that opportunity and to get my foot in the door, that meant an awful lot to me. And all the lessons that he taught me, and what he taught me about, not just being a principal, but he saw me as a future superintendent and kind of took me under his wing and taught me everything he knows. So, I just appreciate those guys who were, kind of mentors to me. And, now, I'm in Region 9, based out of Wichita Falls. That's a close group of superintendents. We've all gotten to know each other pretty well. And I think there's a lot of good people in Region 9 to reach out to, that, we have a little different perspective because we are a rural area. Most of us are small rural schools. There's a couple big schools out there, but extremely conservative part of the state. And we're all pretty like-minded, and we bounce ideas off each other. And a lot of times it's just off of email. But we
Hmm.
learn from each other, and we may not agree on everything, but we grow we grow together, and it helps all of our schools out. So
Awesome. Awesome. Yeah. Yeah. Well, we will definitely reach out to them, try to get some of them on the podcast. And I'm really excited for everything happening at your district. That's just got to be such a positive feeling, just knowing that the
Yes,
success is
sir.
coming from your students. Well,
Exactly.
awesome. Well, love to have you on again, but thank you again, Superintendent Smith, for being on today.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me, Gary.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, before there you have it. Great podcast. So it doesn't matter how big your district is, right? You can do some amazing things like that are happening at Benjamin ISD. Reach out to Superintendent Smith if you want to learn exactly how they are doing it. And before we close out, we do want to give a shout out to our sponsor one more time, Ideal Impact. Ideal Impact's giving away hundreds of millions of dollars of public education in the form of a free gift. So if your district needs unrestricted funds, reach out to Ideal Impact. And for those that have been tuning in, stay tuned for future episodes of the Educational Leadership Podcast.